coverage of the sweeping tariffs the Trump administration is set to impose today on China, Canada, and Mexico. Joining us now is the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker. Governor, good to see you.
Good to see you,
Good to see you, Michael.
Governor, you've been on the mind of the folks at the White House. I was watching the press briefing yesterday, and the White House press secretary name-checked you by name, saying potentially you saying that you are not going to comply with the Trump administration's new immigration policy is illegal. I just want to know if you have a response to the White House's response to your pushback to their policy.
Well, we here in Illinois follow the law. They don't seem to believe in that at the White House. Consistently, they've been breaking the law, and they've put in place unconstitutional orders. They're trying to take away birthright citizenship, which is right there in the Constitution. And, by the way, we have laws on the books that do two things. One is we want to arrest and take out of our country those who are violent criminals who are undocumented. Frankly, I don't want them in my state or in the country. Those laws are on the books already. But we also have laws on the books that say that people who've been here a long time, who are following the rules, who are paying their taxes, who are holding down jobs, who happen to be undocumented, that we're not going to have our police here locally coordinating with federal officials to have them taken away. We want people like that in this country. We're a country of immigrants mostly, and we ought to abide by that principle. We've been doing that for our entire existence, and it's good for our economy to have immigrants come to our shores. My family came several generations ago with nothing and became successful. So many others who are here now are, their families are multiple generations now succeeding in the United States, and it's good. They're paying taxes. They're holding down jobs. We should be supporting them. We need comprehensive immigration reform.
Governor, I want to shift a little bit from that important area to another important area, which is coming into focus today as the president and his team have announced sweeping tariffs on Mexico, China, and Canada. Your state is a major supplier of corn and ethanol exports, which stand to take a huge hit from Trump's tariffs. What's your thinking there? What's the strategy that you now have to put into place? As I was just noting before we went to break, that's an impact to the bottom line of the citizens of the state of Illinois. They're going to feel that. You have to now figure out how to navigate this unnecessary tariff war, because Donald Trump wants to beat his breast and pretend he's such a tough guy, and I can get Canada and Mexico and China to bend the knee to me, and I can get the win. But the American people and the people of Illinois are the ones who are actually going to be beneath that knee when it is bent.
That's right. The people of Illinois, the people of the United States are going to pay the price for what Donald Trump is doing. Let me tell you, Canada and Mexico are our two largest trading partners here in Illinois. We get most of our natural gas and also gasoline from north, right, from Canada. So when you impose a 25% tariff, you're imposing that tariff on working families in Illinois. And let's just say this Trump tax, which is what it is, the Trump tax, goes right along with the Trump tax of taking away things like Meals on Wheels, the freeze that he put in place, taking away Head Start and child care from working families so they can't hold down a job because they have nowhere to take their kids. Our seniors who are in nursing homes, having Medicaid taken away from them and having them thrown out. These are the Trump tax. And by the way, when you lose your job because of these tariffs, that's the biggest tax of all, because you can't afford anything when you lose your job.
Governor, you put out a release on Thursday talking about the January 6th rioters and obtaining state jobs. You wrote, "I am committed to building a state workforce that upholds our shared values and delivers results for the people of Illinois. Our state workforce must reflect the values of Illinois and demonstrate honesty, integrity, and loyalty to serving the taxpayers. No one who attempts to overthrow a government should serve in government." Here's the thing, Governor. We spoke before Donald Trump took office about how Democratic governors were going to be one of the final lines of defense. And we're seeing that play out. We're seeing it on immigration. We are seeing it on these tariffs. We're even seeing it on the pardoning of these January 6 rioters. Those are just the things that are currently happening. What do you see as the challenges that are on the horizon?
Well, my goodness. I mean, first of all, the attacks by the Trump administration on law enforcement. Now, let me repeat that. They're attacking law enforcement. How are they doing that? Well, pardoning January 6th rioters who injured and provided injuries that ultimately killed police officers. That's an attack on police. When you take away funding like they did this week from police departments across the state of Illinois and across the country, we have task forces that are working on fighting drugs and violent crime and taking out the drug cartels and gangs. Right? When you take away funding from those things, you're hurting law enforcement and, frankly, ultimately leading to more crime, not less. So I think Donald Trump, it's a reckless set of policies that he's engaging in. And he, ultimately, he promised that he was going to lower costs for Americans. He promised that he was going to make us safer. And he's done none of that. And I realize he's only been in office 2 weeks, but it's gotten worse, not better. You think your prices at the grocery store have gone down in the last 10 days? No, they've gone up because of what he is threatening or what he's already put in place.
Governor said 2 weeks.
When you said 2 weeks, Governor, Michael and I looked at each other like, oh, my Lord, because you're right. It hasn't even actually been 2 full weeks yet. It's like a little shy of 2 weeks.
You're right.
I wonder, what are the Democratic governors' conversations amongst one another? Because while this week you are the ire of the Trump administration officials, next week it could be Governor Westmore in Maryland. Like, how are you all coordinating, or are you, in this moment?
Especially since he is threatening those who are not compliant with his orders.
Well, I'm not afraid. And none of us should be afraid. We should be standing up, speaking out. We should be very clear about our messaging. And very importantly, Donald Trump is attacking working families. We are the front lines of protecting working families, we governors, right? Because we're delivering the services that people need in the states. So we are talking to one another. Many of us have had phone calls with one another to talk about, what do you think? How are you talking about this? What are you doing to protect people from cuts and Meals on Wheels and others? So there's been a lot of, I wouldn't call it coordination, but I just say we're sharing a lot of ideas with one another. And, I started an organization that's focused on safeguarding democracy among governors. We're working hard with one another to think about, how do we fight back? How do we push back? We obviously need to go to court, and we did over the last 2 weeks. And FYI, we've won 3 times in a row going to federal court. So we're going to continue to do that because we know that we're on the right side of the law and the Trump administration's on the wrong side. But governors are at the front lines. We're the ones who are taking the brunt of what they're trying to cut at the federal government level. And we need our federal officials, Democrats, to stand up and speak out, vote against nominees from the Trump administration until the Republicans finally capitulate to the idea that they're hurt, too, by these Trump attacks. Governors in Republican states like Louisiana have spoken out and said, this is bad for our people. And I've personally spoken with, 100 governors across the state of Illinois who are Republicans who want me to help them protect their people from what Donald Trump's trying to do to their working families.
To that point, Governor, you noted with regard to the funding freeze, you noted that it was illegal and said what the president is trying to do is illegal. I know these are challenging times, and the Trump administration is trying to confuse the American people. That's why it's so important that we speak plainly. And for me, that's the critical piece right now, is how plainly you level all of this up in front of the American people who voted for the price of eggs and the cost of gas and basic things. This administration, while it is deconstructing the administrative state of the federal government, it is also deconstructing the middle class in Illinois. Talk about that impact, because that's the bottom line here. is that families are directly, middle-class families will be directly impacted by all of this.
So let's be clear, and we need to be, I think, as you said, we need to be focused on the contrast here. We Democrats, we want to raise wages in the United States. We want to raise the minimum wage. The Republicans, they don't. The Treasury Secretary that was nominated and confirmed recently by Donald Trump said he doesn't want to raise the minimum wage. Can you live on $7.25 and raise a family? $7.25 minimum wage. By the way, raising wages, that should be everybody's interest, and lowering costs for people. So how about if we focus on those? If you take away health care from people, that's ultimately the most expensive thing that you've got in your life is health care. If we take away health care from people, we're making middle-class families suffer. And I personally believe that we Democrats are not being clear enough. Health care, raising wages, helping people save money for retirement, making sure that we're helping you put your kids through college or whatever education they need to get a good job. These are all things that Democrats believe in, and you're seeing one by one in these hundreds of EOs and memos that Donald Trump is taking away those things from people across America. Look, we should have taken some signal from the idea that at the front row at Donald Trump's inauguration, he had literally the wealthiest people in America standing right behind him. He thought they were the ones that he should show off to Americans. They're the ones who are going to get the massive tax cuts that he's planning that are only going to be affordable if he cuts services for middle-class Americans and working Americans and most vulnerable in the United States. So I think it should be clear to everybody, and Democrats need to be standing up and speaking out in this moment and not being mamby-pamby about how they're responding to what Donald Trump is trying to do. He may have failed last week in the attempt last week, but this is his aim. He's going to keep trying to do it over and over and over again, and that's taking away things for the middle class and working class people in our country need.
We're seeing the implementation of Project 2025 and its crushing blow to the middle class of America. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, thank you so much for being with us.